Hi Stampers, this is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. So glad you stopped in today to make a new card with me. I actually have a funny little story about this card. As you'll see, I have some fiberglass screening that I'm using here. And how I came about to using this is my husband was replacing the screen in one of our doors that was damaged. And he happened to have this roll left over of just partial that he cut off. And of course, the first thing that came to mind was, oh, I can make a card with this stuff. It's really pliable. It's not the metal type of screening that you can buy. And you can actually purchase this in any of the hardware stores. It's got a black finish to it, and it's a little shiny. I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not. But that's what we're going to be using today for one of the layers on our card. So let me get you a list of all the supplies you're going to need. For the card base, we're going to need Pool Party, measuring 11 inches by 4 1/4 inches, scored in the center at 5 1/2 and folded. Pacific Point cardstock, 3 1/2 inches by 4 1/2 inches. The screening, which measures the same exact measurements as the Pacific Point at 3 1/2 by 4 1/2 inches, and a piece of Whisper White, 2 inches by 3 1/2 inches. For ink colors, you're going to need Memento Tuxedo Black, Pool Party, Smoky Slate, and 3 of our Stampin' Right markers, the Pacific Point, Hello Honey, and Pool Party. You're also going to need sponge daubers for the Pool Party and the Smoky Slate. For stamp sets, the sentiment I am using comes from Boys Will Be Boys, and we're using the Happy Birthday. And we're using the lighthouse image from Land to Sea. This is one of the new stamp sets in the annual catalog, and I just love all the images. But today we're using the lighthouse. We're also going to be using tear and tape, basic black baker's twine, or I guess it's just black baker's twine, stamping dimensionals, and I have a cutout here from the 1 1/4 inch scallop circle punch. We're actually going to be using this as a cloud stencil. So let's get started on our project. So the first thing we're going to do is fold our Pool Party cardstock and press on the score line with our bone folder. Then we're going to adhere our Pacific Point layer. And I'm just going to center that over the Pool Party card base. Now for the screening, I don't want to use glue all over the card base to glue that, because then it'll peek through the holes and it'll be tacky. So what I did is I figured out where I wanted to put my stamped image, and I'm going to apply some tear and tape where the stamped image is going to lay. So I'm going to do 2 pieces. Remove the backing. And then I'm going to lay this at an angle about there, and I'm just going to press that in place, because once you have this glued on, this is, even though it's not glued in place there, it's not going to move because the white's going to hold it in place. So now let's do our stamping. So we're going to use the lighthouse image with the Memento Black. I'm going to center that on my cardstock layer. And I'm also going to do the Happy Birthday, and as you'll notice on my card, I did it vertically. Make sure I have this facing the correct way. And I'm going to stamp that right beside the lighthouse. Now we're going to do a little bit of sponging. I'm going to bring in a scrap piece of paper and I'm going to lay that right over the lighthouse on the base part. And I'm going to bring in the smoky slate ink and just a little bit on my sponge. And I don't need a lot here. I'm just going to start by pressing a little bit harder and lifting up as I go so it gets lighter. So as you can see, that's all that's needed for that portion. Now we're going to bring in the pool party ink and we're going to create some clouds. And again, we're going to dip in the pool party, and I always rub some off on my scrap so I don't get too dark. We're just going to do subtle clouds. And all I do is I keep moving it around. And just keep adding layers. And now, if you'll notice, I'm only sponging on the top portion of my scallop. Here we'll do a couple more. Okay, and that should do it for the sky. See how quick that was? Now we're going to add stamping dimensionals to the back of our stamped layer. And remove all the backings. This is really a quick card to make, so if you need to do a card for a swap or an event that you're going to, these are really quick to come up with. Before we glue that in place, we're going to take our twine, and I'm going to leave some hanging out on the edge here, and I'm going to wrap around 3 times and snip off the end. And then I'm just going to bring them together and tie this into a bow. And I usually start out by making larger bows and I pull them in and tighten, and that's how I get them to look really good on my card. So we'll make this a little bit smaller, pull and tighten. And now we'll make sure that this is all nice and straight. Trim one end. I don't have my ribbon scissors because they're for a class I'm having tonight, and I don't have them at my fingertips right now. And now we'll just take our lighthouse panel and glue that in place. Silly me, I was in such a hurry to get my layers glued together that I forgot to show you how I colored my lighthouse. So I brought in my Pool Party Stampin' Write marker, and I'm going to color the lighter areas that have a little bit less detail straight with my marker. Then we're going to use the Pacific Point to color the more detailed stripes. And I also colored the base with this color. And these do lighten up a little bit once they dry completely. Do one more up here. And I did have the top. And then to add light to the lighthouse, I use the Hello Honey up here because this would be the part that would be lit up. So there you go. That's the end of my card for today. I hope you liked the technique using the screening. If you have any questions, leave a message on my YouTube video, or you can email me, and I will leave my information at the end, along with my online store and a list of supplies. Thanks for stopping by, and have a good day.